Now yesterday when I did the extraction of the bearing, I should have set the camera up a bit better. Sorry guys, my fault. We moved this bearing yesterday off of this shaft. This is where it is obviously loose, but it seats here. And we went through the process of putting the clamps here. Yeah, these. Putting these, setting them up with the rest of the apparatus. And I'm going to run through that now, because when I viewed the footage back, like an idiot, I missed off the top of the yoke. So I'm going to show you the way that goes together, so that you get the full picture rather than half the picture. Apologies. I'm going to put you back in the tripod now. Right, let's hope we get it all in the frame this time. Right. So this was the bit you saw, that one, which was clamped in there. Obviously the bearing's loose now, I'm not going to push it back on, but it was clamped in that gap there, like that. Probably about there actually. Because the bearing's now loose, it makes it harder to put it where it was. But that's where it was yesterday, roughly like that. Now to get that to pull up like that, we need to put the rest of it together. And it was the top part which I missed out. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So we put these in here. And obviously we tighten them down with a spanner or wrench, whatever you want to call it. Then the extension, because it obviously needs to be higher than that, the length of that. And this is the bit that I didn't get in the frame. I hope you can see it now. Yeah, I think you can. Now this, bear in mind, was inside there like that. If I take that bolt out, it might make it easier. Doesn't balance on a bolt very well. That was like that. The bearing was at the bottom. And this was the bit, as I said, that was not in the shop. This bit you put on there, and then you screw this in the top. Can you guys see that? It's still not greatly improved. Anyway, you screw that right way down. There you go, that's what it looks like. Put that in the top. Now you put the nut on there. And the reason you put the nut on there is because you don't want it to push out and damage any of these threads. It probably won't, but I always put the nut on there. And it also helps center this shaft here with the thread on, which you're going to tighten down fairly hard to pull that bearing up. Now I've seen a few places on the YouTube, and this wasn't centralized. It is quite important to have that. If you look at that, I don't know if you can see it there. It is quite important to have that the center of that shaft as possible, so you get equal pulling power. And to do that, we have two nuts, two washers from one of the other legs, because they might not always be this tall. You've got different variations. Make sure everything's tight, and then you centralize that as best you can, like that. Try and get an equal pull. Obviously these will be tight, but they're not going to tighten up now because the bearing's loose. So, but that's the general idea. don't know if you can see that top. Let me just move the camera up. Can you see that? And you tighten this one here and it pulls the bearing up. Quite a simple, effective tool, really. Sorry I messed up yesterday, but you can see now how it's done. Right, let's take it apart and put it in this box. Just to start off on what I'm planning to do today, I've already done one. I'm going to do the next one so you guys can see it. Here, it's not unusual to do this. There's quite a few guys on the YouTube mention about it. We put in a grease nipple. And that's my little bleed off hole there. It's teeny. I'm going to put a bit of tape over there. I mean, it's so small. It's just to let, obviously, the pressure of the grease when it goes into the grease nipple to bleed off through that hole. Then I should just close it, clean it off with a rag, bit of spirit, whatever, and then close it with a bit of tape. Now the idea is, we go over here. These are our new bearings. They're both shielded, both sides. Bottom end, top end of this little chap. There's the bottom end. So the idea is that I'll take one shield out of the larger bearing, and the shield which is going to be left in will face down, and the same on the top. If we look at this one, the shield on this one at the top will be left in, and the shield underneath I shall take it out. I'm not putting them in just yet. I'm actually going to drill this hole here. I've centre popped it. I'm going to drill it there very small. Try and do it as true as possible. Bear in mind that these are slightly tapered. Then tap it. Then drill it with a tapping drill, and then tap the thread. I'm going to put you on the tripod so you can see what's going on. I think you can see that. Right, let's get to work on that. Very small drill first of all. So that's me hole done, which I'd call a pilot hole. Now I'll go in with the next size up. I found it doesn't pay to go, excuse me, doesn't pay to go straight in with the actual large drill because it can wander. It just pays to go carefully. And slowly build up the size of the hole. Now I'm going to go in with the drill I'm going to use to tap. So this will be my final drill. Now I'm going to tap the thread. Now because we got this boss in the way, I don't know if you can see this, guys. If I do it just ordinary with a tap wrench, which I've put back now, it will collide with this and you just can't do it. So this is my little extension. Now if I've got my arm in the way, excuse me for a while. Just get it started. Quite soft aluminium actually. We take our time. always find it's best to go half a turn then back a bit so that it cuts off the swarf. And you can, if you want, use a little bit of lube. If it was steel, I would definitely do that, but aluminium's quite easy. Now it's finished, more or less finished its cut. Let's just take it all the way down to clean it out. Remove that carefully. The other thing as well, if you don't use lube, it tends to leave the flutes in the tap a bit cleaner. Not that it's a problem. So I'm going to blow that out now with an airline. Block your ears, folks. And this is my little grease nipple. I'm going to try fit it, and then I'm going to thread lock it with some compound. It's okay. This is semi-permanent thread lock. And I've got a long reach socket, which is, I think it's an M9. Let's have a look. Yeah, an M9. Just tighten up. There's my little trusted wrench again. Doesn't need to go overboard on the tightness because it's aluminium and it will shear the thread easily. That's it. It's bottomed out. And that's it. Right, so now I'm going to drill off my teeny weeny little hole, which is my weeping hole, some guys call it. I would call it a bleed hole because you let it bleed as you pump the grease in. Like I said earlier, I think I said earlier, for the time you're not pumping grease in, just put a bit of tape around it. I'm sure it'll hold. And as long as it stops the moisture and water getting in, that's fine. Not that it's going to get in that far because it's packed out with grease anyway. Right, there's my centre pot. Put it just below the bearing. Just to guide it in. There he goes. And that's it. I'm going to clean it off once more with the airline. Make sure you get all the crap out because you don't want that getting in your grease, obviously. And the idea of doing this is to prolong the bearings, not getting full up with swarf. If you do put these in the vise, go careful because I think if you was to go overboard on holding them, because they're tapered, it may well crush them or crack these housings. They're pretty strong, but they're not designed to be clamped too hard in a vise. So there we go. If you guys can see that, it's quite flush, not too bad. That thread lock will hold it in place. After all it's got to do, if you can look down there, all it's got to do is pump grease into the mandrel. Got to clean all this out, and we'll sort that out another time. But that one can go with his brother. Let's move you back out of the way a minute, guys. And go with his brother over there. I don't believe it matters which one you use on either side. What does matter, of course, is the left hand and the right hand thread. As I said the other day, got to be very careful with that. Excuse me. Well, that's that bit done. Going to see if I can remove this shield. They're only clipped in, so it's not a big deal. There you go. Would you say there was a lot of grease in there? There isn't, is there? And that's straight from the factory. Put a little bit of grease in there and hope for the best. We're going to pack that now. I'm going to put you back. No, not leave you there. Now they do say if you put too much grease in a bearing, you can cause problems. And that may be the case. But you'll cause even more problems if it runs dry, in my opinion. Where's my rag? See the difference now? So, I'm going to move you back because I'm now going to drift that bearing into the mandrel. Put them on a solid surface, get it the right way round, and then we'll tap away and get him home. It's okay. Right, so now the bearing's in there, drifted it in. I'm going to tap this home. Notice I've got a gap in the bottom of the vise. That's it. That's home. So that looks pretty good. So now we need to put the bearing on the top. Again, need to take the shield out. Going to remove this shield. And then we'll pack it with grease. Well, that's a lot better. Look at the difference on that one. I don't know if you guys can see that. Packed a lot better. We'll put that over the top. And see if we can tap him home. Get a big socket and see if we can go over the top of that into the outer race. Don't think I've got a socket in there big enough. Bit too small. Might do it. Yeah, just a job. Hope this is coming out for you guys. Needs to come out a bit better than what the last shot was. So now we've got that on top. It's on the outer race. We'll tap that. Won't go over there. Let's see if we can go. Got most of it in. Again, it will pull up as we go. Feels better. So that one's done. I think we might have to put some indentations on that one. That seems awfully loose. Didn't want to do this. But I ain't got a lot of choice. All this does is splay the alley, the casing, to make it that little bit tighter. You can see that. I've just put some little indentations in the side of there. So hopefully that will make it a little bit of a better seat. The other thing I'm going to do as well, so I'm going to thread lock it with bearing. Just a smear. Oh, got it on my fingers. Wrong hammer. That's gone down a lot tighter now. And I can you can hear the change in sound as it seats. That's seated on the bottom, which is a lot better. So that one's done. So now we need to do this one. This time I'm not going to clean that out because by cleaning that out it seems to have allowed that bearing to get a bit tight. Sorry, a bit loose. Right. Need the big bearing. So, got both our bearings in. Don't know if you can see that, guys. Let's try and get some better light in here. Top bearing, bottom bearing. On this one, and his brother down there, he's done as well. So now what we need to do is to put these in and tap them home. Now one of these is the left-hand thread. Which one is it? It is this one with the yellow on the top of the bolt. And down there. Open that up. Where's my block of wood gone? There he is. There he goes. Hear the change in sound? That's home. That bearing's in there. We've got enough splines, for want of a better word. They're not actually like splines, but they're quite coarse splines, if that's what you want to call them, for the pulley wheel to lock onto that. So give that a clean off. Now, here's the interesting bit. Got to pump them through the grease. Oh! Shut the door.
No, I didn't. Got things to do. I just thought you might like to add that to your and guess what I've just got?
What?
A lemon sponge.
Oh right.
On your videos.
Yeah, well I will. It's actually recording now, so you're on it. You'll pick up the soundtrack anyway. Oh, we've been interrupted, guys. We've been interrupted by my other half, my precious Mary. Now I know this is not about bikes today, but this is another message if this amazing engineer ever watches, which he probably won't, but who knows, I remain hopeful. Mr. Alan Millyard. If you haven't seen his videos and you're into bikes, go watch. Go watch and learn. Guy's a genius. Cake. I got a nice piece of cake here, just brought into by my lovely Mary, who loves baking. And there's nothing more satisfying, to be honest with you, than be out here working, just as you finish a little part of the project, just a little part of the project, she comes out with something like this. Amazing, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to eat this now, and I'll be back in a minute. And we'll start pumping some grease into this one. Right, yeah, going back to what I was saying, don't be tempted to clamp that without that in there. And if you've got that in there and you do clamp that in a vise, go very carefully. So we want to face the nipple around there so you can all see. Just tighten that up gently. That's what will let us tighten up because it is tapered. Whenever it will. That'll do. Don't want to break it. So what I'm looking for is to be able to pump grease in there so we can get some more light on the subject. That might be better. Pump the grease in there with the grease gun until it comes out here. Then I know this is solidly packed. Now earlier you saw me take the shields out of the bearing, and the reason being is because as standard they come with shields on both sides, as you saw. But if you've got this system with the grease nipple and the bleed off, it's going to give you added life of those bearings, because if you pump grease in there, I don't know, maybe every 6 weeks, something like that, when the grass is really long and it needs cutting a lot through the season, then I'm convinced that this will help prolong the life of these bearings. So let's go and get the grease gun. This is the grease gun I bought, come from eBay. And guess what? I think it's Chinese. And I'll tell you why I think that. It's because I had to go out and buy a proper head. Because the one that was on there, when you connect it up to the grease nipple, the grease would go everywhere other than into the nipple. Which is pretty rubbish, really. It was coming out here, which is no good. Anyway, let's just hook them on there. And now we're going to be pumping grease. There we are, look. Begin to see it creep out now. So that's number one done. Weighs a bit heavier. Oh, hello. No. You don't want to be doing that. Hang on a minute, dear boy. Yeah, so that's that. All nice and smooth and well greased up. So that one's done. Now do you need to do this one? I don't know how much grease is in here. It might not finish this. Little bit of grease. Now with a bit of luck, now these are done, as I said earlier, we should get a greater lifespan on these, but we'll see how we go. So they're finished. Just going to show you those. Both mandrels are done, greased up. What we need to do now is probably put them in the new deck. But we can't do that because we haven't got it here, which is quite annoying. Right folks, that's it for the time being. If you like what you see, please do click and subscribe. It helps the channel. And I'll be back later with some more interesting stuff. At least I hope it's interesting. And probably we're going to be working on assembling all this so that we can get the completed deck. See you next time. Bye for now.